Hi, everybody. Surprise!
Yay!
We usually do this show, Returning to Clarity, every other Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. But today, we were actually scheduled to record this tonight, and then we just decided to be spontaneous and go live. So, happy day. How's everybody? My name is Mazzotta. Welcome to Emerge Healing and Wellness. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm an Akashic therapist, and I work with therapists, coaches, and healers to really become comfortable with the space of the Akashic records so that they can prevent burnout, help clients with much more ease and flow, and especially get out of those chronic patterns or cycles that they have in their lives that have kept them stuck, whether personally or professionally. For me, it was chronic illness. For others, it can be chronic depression, chronic anxiety, doubt, things like that. So say hello if you're jumping on, give us some likes, give us some hearts, and share this out to anyone that you might think would benefit from learning about relationship patterns that don't serve us. Raylene, would you like to introduce yourself, my friend?
Sure, but how do I follow that lovely introduction? Man, I just need you to, I'll just cart you around and let you introduce me. You're fantastic with it. So my name is Raylene Sandin, and I am an energy healer. I work with Reiki, quantum healing, hypnosis, insight, spirit channeling. And I'm also a mindset mentor for women looking to connect and be empowered through a deeper relationship and awareness to their soul self. So, and I'm really glad to be here. I love our vibe together. I love how we dive into these conversations that are spiritually connected and help to awaken individuals and to deepen our connection with our soul self. So I'm glad to be here.
Yay. Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this with me. And totally impromptu as well. So guys, for some reason, well, first of all, we were going to go live from Zoom, but we're having a lot of technology issues. And so sometimes my face goes fuzzy and sometimes Raylene disappears. So we're going to work through this, and we'd like just your help with sending some positive vibes to the technology this evening. I am not receiving any comments on Be Live, so they're showing up on my page, and I just have my phone open here. So if you see me on my phone, I'm not like texting and making plans with my friends.
Right.
I'm focused, but going on. So
Same here. Yeah.
So whatever. I mean, the technology just decided that it wants to do its own thing, which is fine.
So we zig when it zags, right?
Yeah, we're going to give it freedom to be its authentic self.
Exactly. Yes.
So this is something that I've wanted to go live about individually for a long time. And then I decided, let's talk about it together because like Raylene said, our vibe is fabulous and we get really good intuitive stuff. Oh, all of a sudden, all the comments just showed up. This is very exciting.
Great.
Well, welcome, everyone. Hello, everyone showed up at the same time. All right. So one of the things that I have noticed as a theme I noticed it in my life, but I also have noticed it in a lot of my clients' lives lately.
Yeah.
Is this concept of, I guess you could call it venting or, connecting with people, particularly in your family, via negativity. So what I noticed was like, way back when there was a lot of history in my family that we would connect and kind of get together and kind of, I guess, feel like we were, connected is the best word to one another. When we were talking about things that were negative, like we were bitching about this family member, or we were talking about something that happened to us, or, oh, I'm not feeling well, or whatever. And so we would kind of call each other, those go-to people that we would call each other if like, oh my gosh, I need to complain about this or that or the other, right? And what I've noticed is that this doesn't just, create a level of, I guess, tension within the relationship or this connection based on negativity.
Right.
But what happens if we do this consistently and persistently, we start to become reliant on negativity for connection. Does that make sense? And all of us as human beings have a very basic need for belonging, for love, for security, those kinds of things. And so we become habituated to connecting with people by sharing negative content or by venting about something. Then we become dependent on that love, belonging, connection through negativity. And then we become dependent on negativity. Do you see how that pattern can develop?
100%. And in fact, it was very present in my childhood too, and into my adulthood for decades. I am still at layers removing myself from that, but it is I love that you said habituated, because that, the root of that is habit, right? It's a very habit forming, just like we would treat it as any other addictive behavior, conditioned behavior. And I love that you said that it becomes then the replacement for healthy connection and relationship. For me, my sister and I and my mother, the three of us would triangulate. And I know what that is, being a therapist. It's taking two individuals, two parts of that triangle, and using the other part of it to kind of insert drama with and all of that. And so my role in the family was to be the compliant, the perfect one, the obedient daughter. My sister was more strong-willed. She had more of a sense of herself and what she wanted and didn't want. And she was very vocal and unapologetic for it. So if I could then go to my mother and I would work it into the conversation in a very, I would try. Church was big in our background back then. And so I would try to churchify it, religify it, right? And say, I'm really concerned about, sister, have you noticed that this was going on, or this, or, and then it would turn into the bitch fest. And then it would be, mom was on my side, and then she would get dad involved, and dad would go have a conversation with sister. Nobody talked directly to each other. We just talked about each other and over each other. And so it was a very unhealthy dynamic. Absolutely. And it has taken decades really to repair that. And I'll say the repair started to come when I got myself into therapy and really started to recognize that was the pattern that I had slipped into. And gosh, there's so much. I mean, I have, when I was a child, there was abuse in my family and background and all of that. And so it's a very typical developed behavior pattern, coping mechanism in that world too. So it just began to be illuminated in therapy. And then I began to become more aware of it and stopped it on my end. So I don't know what they do, but I don't do that any longer. I only want to celebrate and know the wonderful things, the blessings. I hold space if somebody needs that, but I certainly don't then take it and weaponize it and use it for drama to undercut any relationships any longer. So,
well, you bring up a good point, because I think that what it does is it simply distracts us from being our authentic selves. It's an avoidance tactic. We get to avoid being able to say, like, listen, this pissed me off and this is why, or, I'm feeling really hurt because, or setting a boundary or what have you. And those are the harder things. And I like that people are trying to release negativity, because that is something that's good. And if you're doing it to the right person, that person can say to you, I get where you're coming from, and I understand what's really going on under the surface here, and I can help you with that. But if it's this really patterned relationship, you are used to calling, and then what happens is you can rile each other up, right? You can rile each other up, and you feel very justified in your anger, and you feel very justified in your complaining or what have you.
Right.
Like, okay, I was validated, so now I can move on. Whereas really, that's a temporary Band-Aid, and it really doesn't move you forward.
No, pretty soon the villagers are all ready with their, spears and weapons and all of that, and they're rushing to the village to overthrow it. So, absolutely, and I know this story. Last summer, I turned 50, and my mom she was planning something special for my birthday, and my sister wanted to do something special. And they didn't intersect. They were at different times. One was in late June, the other in July. But my sister got it in her head that my mother was interfering with what my sister wanted to do. And so my sister called me, and she did exactly that. She tried to get me all riled up and try to get me, in this posse with her. And we were going to, get on our horses and ride into town and say there's a new sheriff and we're, fuck you, get out of here, and we're taking over kind of bullshit. And I, through all of the, through what I'd been through therapy and just other things that I had begun to awaken to, I could see that for what it was. And I didn't attack her. I just simply allowed her to speak and then just kept asking questions and pointing out that there wasn't anything to be upset about. And pretty soon there wasn't any wind to her sails to kind of get that ship sailing. So, it fell flat. I'm sure she was pissed at me because I wasn't playing along, but we don't have those conversations anymore.
Right. You bring up a very good point with that, though, because if we approach anything with an air of curiosity, we take the wind out of people's sails, right? I mean, not in a bad way, but in a way that like they don't have to feel like they're on the defensive. They don't have to be reactive, right?
Yeah.
You're simply asking questions for greater understanding so that you can get a context for understanding where this person is coming from, what they might be going through, why they were thinking this way. And if we approach things with an air of curiosity, it's very uncommon for people to get really reactive and defensive because you're not blaming anybody for anything. You're just simply getting curious and you're saying, okay, tell me more about that. Like, what were your thoughts? Like, how did you come to this conclusion or what have you? And that just connects relationships. That just helps people grow because we are always shifting and changing as people. We are energetic beings.
Yep.
And so I never want, like people say, like the biggest relationship flops is making assumptions, right?
Yeah.
And so it's true. Like, never assume that who I am today is the same person I was 3 months ago or 3 years ago or what have you. And the people who are closest to me, that's different. They can see when I'm off by how I breathe.
Right.
But it's really important to always kind of err on the side of approaching people and situations with curiosity.
Yes. And I like that you say, don't assume that even in 3 months, I'm going to be the same individual that I am today. And even honestly, sometimes, even in shorter increments than that too. Last year, I attended a conference retreat and came back from that treat. And then I received information from Spirit that I was to no longer eat beef or chicken. And so all of a sudden, my husband is like, what do you feel like eating? And I said, well, anything besides beef or chicken. And he's like, what? When did this happen? And I said, I don't know, it just did. Like, I just got that word and I'm just not supposed to do that. So even sometimes in our most intimate relationships, it can be from one moment to the next, and we have to honor that. I know for myself, I'm not the greatest sometimes at doing that when my husband, maybe he has in the past been okay with a certain, I don't know, certain something or other and gone along with it. And then all of a sudden he starts to voice that he's no longer okay with that, or that's no longer something that he enjoys doing or whatever. And if I resist that and hold on to that and say, well, but we just did that last weekend. Why now all of a sudden are you not okay with it?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than simply honoring it, I can still ask the question, but of course not so loaded, right?
Right. Energetically loaded.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
also softens us. You know, we're not coming at it with this tone of voice or nonverbal behavior that makes people think like, oh, she's pissy with me, you know?
Right.
So, all right, these comments are showing up very randomly. We have a comment from Stephanie. She says, I'd love to figure out how to change a relationship that has turned into this. I've stopped engaging in the complaining about others, but it continues at the other person's end.
Right. Well, listen, it's not always going to go away on their end. In fact, there will be individuals who dig their heels in further and they get even more resistant. And it then becomes a point of perhaps on their end of trying to drag you back into it. You know, there's that dynamic of the lobster in the tank. If you watch lobsters in a tank, literally you'll see one trying to climb to get out, and you'll see others below it get climbing on the backs of other lobsters to pull them back down. So it's that real social dynamic of if they're upset or they're unhappy or they have a certain, I don't know, well, they're caught up in that addictive behavior of it, that pattern of it, they're going to want to find other individuals who will come down to that level with them and participate in it. So, for example, my sister, she, obviously wasn't very happy with me when finally it became obvious in the conversation what was going on in that dynamic, and I wasn't playing into that. So for her decision was to kind of distance herself, and she stopped talking to me for several months, which is kind of her pattern. But I know that some people will really amp up and really continue to come at you hard. And I just say stay strong and continue to stay in that space of compassionate awareness. If it gets to be too much for you, then that's an opportunity for you, like Laura said earlier, to create a boundary and speak truth to that and say, hey, I've noticed when we have conversations, this is the way they tend to go. And I'm not comfortable with that any longer. I value our relationship, but I also value that relationship. And I don't speak about you this way privately and offline with other people, and I won't speak about them that way either. So, if you make that known, then eventually they'll go find someone else to do it, or perhaps you change them.
Yeah, exactly. I think that if you can stay in alignment and you can, not allow them to rock you so that you're not absorbing that, right? And we do that. I mean, one way is through setting boundaries with them and setting limits for yourself in terms of, okay, this is somebody that I'm going to call on my way home so that I only have a few minutes to speak with them because I know on and on. So you're still taking initiative. You're still engaging in the relationship. But if you're not saying what you authentically feel or how you authentically see the situation, then and they're asking you, right? And they're asking you for your feedback or expecting your feedback.
Right.
You're encouraging the pattern.
Right.
Because at that point, you are not being your authentic self. You're not fully in alignment with your authentic self. And so is that relationship really real? Is it really genuine? Is it really authentic?
Right.
So challenging you to say,
right,
this doesn't resonate with me anymore. And then you probably think, well, then I feel guilty because she's used to relying on me or used to relying on me or something.
Right.
And now I don't know what to do. But again, we are always changing and growing, which means our relationships are changing and growing. And those ones that are meant to stay in our lives are the ones that will grow with us, that will continue to approach us with curiosity.
Yes.
That we can continue to grow and they can continue to grow.
Exactly. 100%. I like that you said that because it may very well come to the point where that relationship naturally just flows away, or that you end up having to say, look, this just no longer is who I am. It's no longer how I wish to spend my time and my energy. And I value you. I value them. and they may just say peace out, kind of a thing, which is fine.
Yeah, and it's funny because I see that too. Like the relationships will just start to kind of peter out a little bit. They'll stop coming to me as much.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that I do believe that this is one of the reasons that my illness presented itself, is because I never said no, right? I never said no, and I was always walking in eggshells and saying to people like, "Oh yeah, I'm being supportive and all of that." Was I being authentic? Not necessarily. And so my illness spoke for me, because I could say to them, "Sorry, I can't talk right now because I really don't feel well," or and that's my process now, is being able to say, I love you, but I need to honor my body, and I need to rest right now, or I want to meditate, or I need to read. That serves me, and I am now in a preventive space where I don't want to have that illness return at the level it did, but it was for me.
Yeah, I love that. And we've talked about this before. If we don't show up in our life proactively and take those proactive measures, call it creating boundaries, communicating clearly our authentic self, something else in our life will show up to do that. And that includes our health, or it may be a job move, a job relocation. Maybe if we are stuck in the energy of, gosh, I'm just not enjoying where I'm at right now in my job, in my career. I don't enjoy where I work, et cetera, but we're not proactive to take the steps to look for something better or pursue a more fulfilling role within where we are that will satisfy that. Life will kick in and it will bump us. So it's much easier if we're the ones taking that communication, that energetic communication, and taking that step, right, of proactively acting in alignment, like you said, or then we get, what life hands us. And sometimes it's not so fun going through what life hands us.
Well, and you know what that is, and Stephanie Lynn, this is for you as well, is you are choosing other people and their happiness and alignment over your own. So is that a step towards self-worth? Is that a step towards feeling confident and bold and to yourself? I think not.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That I put up, but then I took it down because it was big and it was covering your face. So I'm going to get back now. I have a great love, so connected, but he's always gone, and I'm super attached and feel his emotion also. He's holding on. I am too, but we are not moving forward yet in a way that I feel completely supports me. Okay, so in a perfect world, Christina, how would you be handling this? If there were no emotions, nothing tied to this at all, and you were able to sit down with the facts and say, does this serve me? When you weigh the benefits and the burdens, what is your immediate answer to that? Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. What's your immediate answer to that? And let us know.
I also think that it's important in there to read. When I hear, you can always hear the buts coming. And when you see the buts, when the butt shows up, what's said and expressed after the butt is what is communicating to you exactly the nature of what's going on, and it gives you and provides you the information that you're seeking, which you already know, that you need to act upon 100%.
I think you already know, Christina. I just think the reality of it sucks for you in one way or the other. Either, oh, this isn't going where I want it, and I'm not feeling good about it, and that sucks, and I'm not ready to really process that yet emotionally.
Right.
Or I know that I have to confront this or set certain boundaries or speak my mind in a bolder way, and that scares the crap out of me.
Right.
So I think it's one of those two that's going on.
Well, and two, the dynamic of, are you really interested how interested are you in moving forward? Because if you were really that motivated to move forward, you would not be in a position to settle for someone who's just in life, just in a holding pattern and just staying still. And even the thought of being with someone and not being with someone and settling would not be a negotiable for you. You wouldn't want to just be with someone just to have someone in your life and not be able to move forward.
Well, and I'll ask you, Christina, you can either think about this in terms of, is this in alignment with who I want to be, right? With my future version of myself.
Right.
Or is this a relationship that I would wish for my daughter?
Yeah, huge.
Because there's been many people in my life that I've loved.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Right? But it's like those, I can't believe I'm referring to a meme on Instagram right now, but I am. Because it said it beautifully. And it was something like, you know, if you have to question it, then it's a no. It's like when we make any decisions for ourselves and we say, okay, don't do anything unless it's a hell yes.
Yes.
Like if somebody comes up to me and presents something, I'm like, yes. Like that's, if it's a maybe or if it's a no, they're both no's.
Right.
Right. So, and the actions are going to be more vocal for you. Yeah. And more of a clear and bold message and a reflection of the accurate nature of things than the feelings and, you know, because we can have energetic connections with people who are like across the world.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that they're meant to be our partners to serve us in the way that is in alignment with who we want to be and how we want our lives to go.
Yep. And almost certainly you already have an energetic communication that goes on in your body already. Your body is the first responder. It's the first communicator. It's the first line of communication. So 100%, you already know, just simply by nature of how you stated that and how you framed it. You already know. Yeah. But he's always gone. But this, but that. Your answer is there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up in the conversation was brought up earlier, Raylan, is this pattern of becoming reliant on negativity for connection and how that translates to us becoming reliant on negativity for our own sense of self-love. Right. In domestic violence situations. And this could be emotional abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, any of the above. That if those, you know, it's a very standard dynamic that in situations, people are very, very codependent and attached to their abusers because they get used to this message from them of, all right, well, you need to stay in line and be held accountable, because if you don't, or if I don't keep you in line, or if I don't hold you accountable, you're going to be an asshole, or you're not going to be successful in whatever way you define success, or what have you. Okay. Right. And so what happens is, once that's repetitive and patterned, we get to the point where we're like, okay, well, now I need to hold myself accountable because that's the only way I know how to be a good person. So I'm going to criticize myself. I'm going to be hard on myself. I'm going to manipulate myself, meaning self-sabotage, right?
Yes.
So that's how it can show up based on like a DV history as well.
Yes. You know, I'm sorry, I was responding to Stephanie. She said, thank you for helping us learn to trust ourselves. And I love that she said, trust yourself. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. You know, in the dynamic of abusive relationships certainly fosters and hits to the core of not trusting yourself. Either you came into the relationship without any real self-trust or self-knowledge, right? Or you came into the relationship extremely confident, and through being gaslighted, you know, constantly, like you said, barraged with being broken down. There is a pattern to that. You know, if you come into it very confident, and there are most individuals that do, and they say after they come out of it, they recognize that the individual that they were partnered with systematically began to break things down in terms of their own level of confidence, in terms of their own level of self-trust, began to create questions in the dynamic of, you really need me, shifting the power base, right, and isolating them either from other people outside of them that would tell them and say, hey, come on now, this isn't you, get out, kind of a thing. But the dynamic that happens with the mind, then the mind is wired for threat assessment and is always looking for defenses that it can build in order to protect and preserve. And so when the mind is in those relationships, the funny thing about the mind is that it creates the belief that, well, if I just become what he or she says that I need to become, then they'll be okay with me. Then they'll stop the insults, the physical violence, or whatever those behaviors, and they'll just be okay, and they'll level out, and life will be wonderful together. Well, it's a series of moving that ruler down the line further and further to the point where the mind doesn't then know where or when that's going to end or begin. And so the mind then identifies with that individual and the safety found there. And coming out of the abuse that I had when I was a child and being sexually abused by my stepfather, I finally told after 5-6 years of it. But then even in the telling, I was still defending. Mm-hmm. And I had said at one point to my mother that, it's because he didn't have a girlfriend, or he, just needed somebody to love. And so maybe that's why, kind of a thing. And my mother was horrified and appalled. But to me, I thought, oh, it makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. And it was very hard then for me to break that relationship and no longer be around him or see him. And it took decades to unravel that knot, and the mind then wraps around those experiences as something that is known and understood. It's not that it's a welcomed experience, but it's something that's predictable, mm-hmm. the mind believes, and that the mind can navigate it in a way that it understands and knows. So when you come out of those abusive relationships, very frequently the next person that you're with treats you similarly or in the same manner, as that. And it really takes years of reframing and reprogramming your own understanding. Yeah, that's a difficult one.
Yeah. And I liked what you said about predictability, because I feel mm-hmm. like that's a huge piece of this is, we become attached to the things that are consistent and reliable.
Yes.
So if somebody even has a consistent abusive cycle, yes, it's reliable. Like you can, right? Yes. And so that's the work in the healing world, in the energy and spiritual world, and the therapy world, to how do you become reliable and consistent with yourself? Mm-hmm. One of the things that I encourage people is, even if you start a daily practice of like 1 minute of journaling, or 1 minute of meditation, or 1 minute of tapping, or 1 minute of yoga, mm-hmm. what you're doing is you're starting to create a different context. You're starting to create a new context for yourself to shift into that leaves you as the reliable and predictable, safe human that will carry you forward. It's a relationship with yourself. You can see it as like a relationship with yourself, or yourself and your higher self, right? Mm-hmm. So because some people have trouble envisioning that, like a relationship with themselves, but it's your higher self, which has a level of wisdom that we often don't see all of the time in the conscious world. Right. But starting to build that level of reliability and consistency now, mm-hmm. One of the ways that we can transition into that is through safe and secure and reliable relationships that we have in this world. So, we have a partner, or we have a best friend, or we have somebody in our family, or somebody in our family that is able to provide that reliability and consistency, we start thinking, oh, wait, maybe I am worth it. Or, you start to feel safer. You start to feel like you have a foundation and you can go from there.
Yeah. I had a really good friend tell me this was, gosh, after my divorce from my first husband. And I was in this patterned loop, this really toxic relationship pattern loop with a guy that I knew from when I was a kid. I was in 7th grade. I had a huge crush on him and all of this stuff. So there was a lot of sentimentality and emotional trauma bonding to that time period of my life that really connected us, not in a great way. Right. And it was like the umpteenth time that I went to her and said, here's what's going on. I don't understand it. She finally told me very directly, and she said, I love you so much. I cannot watch this happen and unfold in front of me again. She told me all about myself that I did not believe about myself yet. But I knew existed in there because I had experienced that in my teen years at certain times. So I had this little tiny narrow part of myself that she was speaking to. And she said, you start to grow. And when you grow and you get out of it and you remember that part of you, come to me and I will be the first line of defense and the first one to help you. But until then, I cannot stand by and watch you continue to do this to yourself. And it was gut-wrenching, but I knew in my bones, I knew she was speaking truth to me. And that was the beginning of the real opening and depth of me calming down. And like you said, getting quiet with myself, building a relationship with myself, being okay with being at home in quiet, not having to rush or go somewhere or be on the phone to somebody. I was addicted to activity and keeping myself busy, because otherwise then I was sitting with myself and all I could hear and feel was the energy reverberating of the pain and everything to that point. So that really began the moment where I just kind of started to come out of that. And it was the best gift that one of the best gifts that anyone has ever given to me. And I'm still eternally grateful for her for it.
Yeah. And I think that, I think it's really good that you're able to share the success story, first of all. Yes. Yeah. That you're able to move past that, but also the fact that that it was at a greater intensity or more extreme than, say, us being, venting to a friend or, that we shared earlier when we first started this. And but I want you guys to realize that the energy behind it is the same. And so when she's saying that this person was looking at her and saying, I can't stand watching you do this to yourself, it's the same thing when we are gossiping or venting to someone. And it's funny because when I first heard that on some kind of spiritual show, I was like, okay, great. I'm still going to gossip. Because I had a little bit of an addiction to it. I mean, I wasn't a big gossipy person, but when I say addiction, I just mean that when I was in a negative experience, my first response was to call my mother or my friend or somebody and just be like, because I thought, well, I need to vent and I need to get it out and that's good for me. But I learned over time how toxic that is and how it's all it's doing is putting that negativity out there. And yes, it's not as extreme as an abuse situation. And yes, it's extreme as, some of those more intense situations, but it's the same pattern and it's the same dynamic and we are doing it to ourselves. So stop choosing to self-sabotage. Stop choosing to abuse because it is a choice. I can make that phone call when I'm nasty, or I can turn on something like podcast or a song or something like that, or literally just text or call somebody and say, I just want you to know how grateful I am that you're in my life.
Yes.
Because it's those negative situations, every single time they happen, I look at myself and say, why is this rocking me so much? Like, you know, clearly I'm not in alignment with myself, or I'm feeling not confident in this area or something. And so I need to work on me. And I'm telling you, since I started taking that responsibility, there's so much. My energy is so light and it's so refreshing.
Well, and we've talked too before about how we really, you know, with this understanding that we are all mirrors of each other, and we are all reflecting back certain aspects of each other that, you know, we need maybe deeper healing or deeper awareness with. So I love that, you know, when we have these moments, and I mean, it happens, you know, where we can, you know, we catch a moment with somebody and we react to that and we go, God, what a fucking idiot. What the hell is going on? You know, kind of a thing. And we want to just say that. If we pull back from that and go, okay, objectively, what is it about this situation that has got me hooked, that has got me emotionally reacting right now, or has got me wanting to celebrate something negative about someone or about a situation rather than celebrating the beauty of something? What is it that's going on inside of me that's creating that excitement, or that's creating that need to pass it on and to, you know, further continue to expand and expound the drama? And I think when we do that, when we take that step of awareness and we start to question, then that's a point of real shifting. I know for myself, it's really helped me a ton to get curious and go, okay, where inside of me is this landing? That it's creating some sort of tension in me that is wanting to celebrate, you know, something that's unkind, or, you know, a hooked reaction that I have. Yeah.
It's a thank you for the opportunity to help me look at myself from a different angle.
Yes.
You know, thank you for coming into my path, because everybody comes into our paths to highlight or reflect something back to us.
You know what really helped me with that too was Ho'oponopono.
Yes.
Going through that training. And then also when we did our book on radical forgiveness.
Yeah.
Huge help for me. Yeah, I love Stephanie's quote, a perspective shift. And it's all about self-love. Yeah. Yeah, the Ho'oponopono really, really identified that for me in a way. In fact, the other day I was on a tear. I was just, I don't know, I was in a funk and really upset. And my husband came in the room and he goes, I'm just asking you, please do your Ho'oponopono. And I looked at him, you're going to laugh at me. you would have been at the door going, yeah, bitch. Yeah. But I looked at him and I said, no, right now, I don't want to. I just want to be left alone. Leave me be upset. And then he leaves the room and I go, what a freaking hypocrite I am. And so I started doing Ho'oponopono, and I was doing it angry. And I was going, fine, fuck it. I love you. Forgive me. Please, thank you. I'm sorry. I love you. Forgive me. Please, and on and on with the whole thing. And then pretty soon it started to calm me down. And I went out to the living room a few moments later and I told him, I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Yeah. And Ho'oponopono is not easy to do, you know, and it seems easy because you're just saying, thank you, I love you, please forgive me, and I'm sorry. But when you're really doing it in a space of intense emotion, I mean, it pissed me off something big time when I started it. And over time, I just kept sticking with it, and you will soften. I promise you will soften.
Yeah.
You know, and the part that helped me with this whole concept of, you know, sharing that negativity with others, having that reflected back towards us, all of that, was Judgment Detox by Gabrielle Bernstein. So read that book. That's something we're actually going to be moving on to next in Room for Healing, which is a group. But that's a great way of being able to realize that when we judge others, we are judging ourselves. Yes. You know, we need to, when we criticize others, when we blame others for doing this to me or doing that to me, we are not looking at ourselves and our own personal agency in this process. You're giving other people power.
Right.
You're other people, then you're judging yourself. I promise you.
Yep. And that's that taking that awareness of, okay, why is it impacting me so much? Because there's something in me. There's a piece within me where this is striking to be true, and I don't want to see it inside of me. And it creates that part of our psyche that is uncomfortable with looking at stuff that we need to look at and heal and shift. Yeah.
And I think it's really important to note that doesn't mean that, every single time we judge somebody's outfit at the supermarket, that we need to like bring up this big, deep healing situation and existential conversation about it. I think particularly, I always say 3 times makes a pattern. So particularly if you see something coming up in a patterned way, that's something you want to attend to and do something with. The other thing that I want to point out is that we don't have things brought into our awareness, especially when it's patterned, if we are not ready to integrate whatever lesson it is we're supposed to be learning at the time. So even though our egos might say, I don't want to do that. Like I'll go into the Akashic records and they'll tell me to do this, that, and the other. And I'm like, okay, that sounds great. What an aha moment. And sometimes I listen and sometimes I don't. Yeah. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, I just don't want to do that. Or it feels too hard or it's too scary. And I get it, trust me. And so that doesn't mean I'm not evolving. But if I listen to everything, I'd probably evolve quicker. I'd probably be at the place I want to be quicker. But we also need to tune into kind of where we are in our lives and being able to balance that with, well, I kind of need to function and I kind of need to do X, Y, and Z as well. So being able to be in tune with that, but also trusting and knowing that whatever pattern shows up for you, I know you can handle it because you're not given something that you are not ready to integrate, even if you only integrated like the littlest level and the next time you move up to the next level.
Yes. Amen. Yeah, it's like, and we've talked about it before, the onion, right? The peeling of the layers. There may be something that, shows up now and you have peeled off that layer and it's a level of healing that you've received and insight and all of that. And then it could be that it cycles back around in a few months or a couple of years or whatever. And then there's a deeper level of healing that needs to occur that you go, wow, I thought I had dealt with that. Well, I always welcome whatever shows up because it's another opportunity to go deeper with it. Right. And I think that if we embrace it that way and have that perspective, then the resistance falls away. And like you said, we don't fight anymore. We have open hands to receive. And sometimes those processes go a little easier on us. Yeah.
Well, and it's like you said earlier, to celebrate it. Like when it comes up for me again, I used to be like, oh my God, this is coming up again. Didn't I go to therapy for 10 years about this? Why the hell is this coming up again? But now it's celebrating it because I'm like, this means that I've evolved. That like I'm at a point now where I'm at a level of being able to integrate this. Like I have skills, better wisdom, better intuition, better being, ability to tune into and transform this in a way that I didn't before.
Yeah. So this brings us up to the other day. I had a moment with Laura and oh my God, you guys, it's so hysterical. We talked about it in my group, but so I was feeling shades of being like being left hanging in our relationship and being abandoned. And so it really triggered moments for me from childhood. And I'm sitting there thinking it's that moment where I go, God, didn't I deal with that? What the hell? Why is this showing up for me right now? And it was literally over announcing the master class that's coming up here in a few, minutes and a little bit in her group. And I felt she didn't, talk about it as much or whatever as she did everybody else's. And anyway, it was immaturity, but it was it was that little child within me, my inner child, saying, I haven't been seen, I haven't been heard, nobody wants me on their team, and I'm isolated and I'm alone in this world, and it's cold and I'm afraid. And so we went through this moment, and she saw it very quickly, and lovingly and compassionately held that space for me. And I said, yes, absolutely, that's what's going on. And so I did the whole Ho'oponopono prayer again during all of that. And, she talked me through it. We talked our child through it, and made my peace around it. And now we can laugh about it. But we do that for each other. And what we really celebrated was the fact that this was the first time. We've never had an upset or a misunderstanding in our relationship at all. And this was the first time that this little speed bump showed up. And we all just we both went over it, and we went, oh, yeah, okay, that's not, why are we doing that? And we got through it, and it was amazing, and we celebrated that. So.
Well, and that's the beauty of the connection, right? Is that when you have connections with people that are solid and healthy, that you're able to, like I just typed in the comments, which will probably show up in about an hour and a half, because that's where technology is right now, that we have to let our inner child have its tantrum, and then approach it with compassion.
Yes.
Pretty much anytime you guys want to be like, nah, that kind of stuff, that's your inner child having a tantrum. And so when you see that in yourself, approach yourself with compassion as you would a child, and being sensitive to the fact that they're having like an emotional moment, and it has nothing to do with the facts of what just unfolded.
Right.
And so, but that's what's really important for us to know about ourselves in terms of becoming reliable and predictable beings for ourselves, and becoming reliant and consistent for ourselves, is being able to say, okay, like my kids will be like, they'll be having a tantrum, and I'll say, just go into your bed and kick and scream and kick your legs and punch your hands like I do. And I'm 41. So I'm like, I'm so like, we all have that inner child within us. And I think we talked about this. I don't even know when we talked about this. Our last show, who knows? But that inner child is with us all the way up until we pass, and we see that as people get older and get, start to get closer to passing, that innocence and that awe and all of that starts to come out and come more to the surface. And so, just honor and appreciate and accept and embrace that's a part of you. And it's also the part of us that experiences joy and excitement and passion and creativity and all of that too, but nobody ever said that raising a kid went with, oh, okay, I'm going to have a little tantrum inside now, and then I'm going to beat myself up for it for the next 3 days. A child doesn't really progress super well when that occurs.
Right. Well, and if left unresolved and not accepted and embraced, like you said, that inner child throws huge, tremendous fits. And like we talked earlier, on the one end of the spectrum, headed towards domestic violence, that is an inner child that is screaming for help and attention, and is coming at the upset and the disruption in that life and conditioning, in very unhealthy, extreme behaviored ways, right? Habituated ways. And it's doing what it saw, that pattern. So very much so. So I love this song. It's, I think it's, oh gosh, who is it? I think it's a group called The Bird and the Bee. And they sing a song called We Are All Just Taller Children. And that's true. That inner child does live within us. And that's what came out in that moment. And she needed to be seen and heard and scooped up and validated and, loved on. And I did that. You did that. We did it. We embraced it. And okay, here we are now. And I love that we can do that for each other. And, when you have been habituated in the feedback loop of chaos and disruption and gossip and backstabbing and all of that, it can take some time to untangle from all of that. But we're here to tell you, we've been in that, and we're pretty far separated from it. And we continue to on that spectrum get even further and further away from it too, and hold the highest and best for everyone. So
literally, the things that I never thought that I could be with it in terms of freedom. That was always my goal, was freedom. And I can honestly say that now I feel so much freedom. You know, am I 100%? No, I'm not 100%. But, you know, I'm an evolving being just like everybody else. But I feel so much freedom from those things. Those really chains, I think they were, you know, they were emotional chains, etc., that were just holding me back. And it was because I chose to hold on to them, because I was invested in them, you know?
Yeah.
And now I'm much more invested in the future version of myself and in my much greater mission, you know, in this world. So
I love that you said invested, because our energy goes where our intention is and what we pay attention to. And so if we don't feed that beast with attention and intention, our energy is going to go elsewhere. I love that. Yeah. Love it.
So, all right, let's talk about where people can find us, because we got to sign off in a minute here.
We do. And then I have like a half an hour. I'm going to be in your group again.
Oh my gosh, that's right. So if you guys want to join Room for Healing, it's my free Facebook group. And Raylene is going to be going live with a masterclass here tonight. She's teaching us about judging your thoughts. Is it true? And she just does this really fabulous spirit-led turnaround for people who have negative beliefs or thoughts, which is everyone. But it's really cool because she has these really, really powerful transformational turnarounds that that I truly appreciate. So I said, you need to come in my group. And this is masterclass, so she is. So you can join Room for Healing and do that. Her group is called Connect Empowerment. It is also a free Facebook group. I have a starting this week. So if you guys really want to, I mean, seriously, I thought this course was good. And then I started putting in all the details and finishing my PowerPoint, and it's amazing. Like, the level of value you guys are getting in this is off the charts. I'm giving it at a beta price because the package that I really wanted and needed when I started my healing journey. And so I just put it all together because my mission is to just have as many people know all of these skills as possible so that they can feel empowered and heal themselves and not have to go to therapy for the rest of their freaking lives. So that starts on Thursday. I'll put the link in the comments in about 4 days when the technology catches up.
That's hilarious. Well, you're so uniquely qualified for that too, you know, given, you know, and this is another one of those things where, you know, earlier today I talked in my group about balancing contrasts in our lives. That's a point of contrast in your life that on the surface of it, you can go, God, this is horrible and negative, you know, and why do I have this showing up and all of that? But you've since been able to gain some distance and kind of pull back and gain some perspective on it. And it's shown you some wonderful, beautiful things. And this is another opportunity that you never would have had before. You couldn't speak that language because it wasn't in your framework of experience. And now you can.
Even my therapist at the time asked me about like the spiritual significance. And I was like, fuck you. Like, I'm sick and I feel like crap. And now, you know, I mean, I was like so resistant to it, but I was seriously in total hell for like such a long time, physically, et cetera, just because, I mean, it was so traumatic for me when I got sepsis and I was so sick, and to know that this was chronic and all of this other stuff, it scared the crap out of me. And so I was like, well, it was that, honestly, I had to thank that neurologist that told me that this was only going to get worse and I was just going to have, you know, get more and more dysfunctional over time, because that extreme statement for me immediately clicked. I don't believe him. Like, that's not what I see for my future. Like, that's just for myself.
Yep.
So, I mean, as much as I was like, I don't like him, you know, I'm actually very thankful for him, because that was really my biggest turnaround where I was like, absolutely not. I refuse to commit to that.
Yeah. Well, and how beautiful in that moment, because you were able to then open up your hand to receive a new thought, to accept a new belief. And, you know, that's what this talk is going to be about. Yes, I would love to have you connect in with Connected Empowerment. Find me on the Healing Space CO. You can look me up on my personal page. You know, I love connecting with people. I have a journaling junkies group, and we're getting ready to start the book Mindset by Carol S. Dweck. So if you are wanting to connect with that, I have that event blasted everywhere. We start that on Sunday, February 9th. And in the comments, I'll put information. I'll put the event link in there for people to connect there too. So yeah, it's, you know what? All of the experiences that I've had, the trauma from childhood, I equate it in a similar fashion that you do with, your illness diagnosis and all of that, and how you've overcome. I look at those moments in my life now and I say, with complete authenticity, 100% gratitude, thank you so much for showing up for me, because now I can show up the way that I am, as who I am, and with the training and the healing modalities that I have, and it just continues to motivate me for deeper healing, learning, growing, and evolving and changing. So
yeah, and I can honestly, I'm so glad you said that, because I can honestly say with 100% certainty that I am fully thankful for getting sick. I'm fully thankful for having a chronic, because I am so much better of a person than I was 3.5 years ago. I mean, leagues beyond. I'm a completely different person.
You are. Yeah, 100%.
How much, I mean, it just challenged me to grow in ways that I never would have, because I was like rigidly held on to like my agenda and my own definition of success and like who I was supposed to be and all of that. And wow, like now I've seen the light.
And look at what you're doing for women in that same boat. It's amazing. It's incredible. And it never would have happened if you had not had that contrasting experience.
Never would have happened.
Yeah, so love that.
All right, we're going to shut up. Yes. I put my links in the comments. Raylan will put hers as well. You can. My business page is Emerge Healing and Wellness, but most of my content, the vast majority of my content, is in Room for Healing. If you guys want to like test out the Akashic records and see what they're about and like what does all this mean, I'm actually doing a free masterclass tomorrow on my personal page, and I'll share it to Emerge Healing and Wellness, and I'll share it to my group. But you guys can bring questions live, and I'll answer some questions from the records and teach you guys about it. So
it's beautiful space.
Yeah. All right. So we're done talking now. Have a fabulous night. Okay. And you guys, if you come for healing, you can see her in 25 minutes.
Okay. Love you. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.